The year is 1517, and a man has risked his life to defy the church and put a stop to the injustices upon its people. This man is Martin Luther, and he has just nailed the 95 Theses upon the doors of a church. The 95 Theses consist of 95 questions for the church about their misdoings and mistreatments of its people. The people in charge of the church's money and power were known as the clergy, and unsurprisingly, they were often smuggling money for personal use and abusing their power. One of the many things that aided them in this abuse of power structure was the selling of indulgences. Indulgences were pieces of paper that could be bought that symbolized the leftover good deeds of saints. These papers obviously did not give the salvation they promised, and Luther used his theses to protest them. These indulgences were aided by the ideas on how you must follow the Bible and the Bible alone in order to reach heaven. When indulgences were removed and religious reforms began, many people realized for the first time that they could in fact make their own choices. After these theses were posted, a revolution was sparked. A new branch of Catholicism was born by the name Lutheranism after Luther himself. A few other notable people include John Calvin, the founder of Calvinism, and Huldrych Zwingli, who sparked the religious revolution in Switzerland. The changes that these new religions made included expanded marriage rights, as divorce was now allowed and the clergy were given rights to marry. The new churches also emphasized education for all, both men and women. This was due to the popularization of the printing press, which allowed the Bible to be printed in vernacular languages, thus requiring all people to read. Despite these new advantages, religious reforms provided more ways to diminish the lower classes. Due to Calvinist views of predestination, people in power inflicted very strict rules upon lower classes to ensure a pure lifestyle in order to assure that you would be going to heaven. An effect of this was the German Peasant Wars, which lasted from 1524 to 1525. This series of battles resulted in the slaughter of over 100,000 peasants as they protested against the unfair rule of the new noble powers. The reason for this was that as the church lost its political power, much of it was moved to the nobles, who had not been given such powers before, and thus began to abuse it more than the clergy had, exploiting their workers and not giving them fair pay. Another factor that was protest was the large amount of rules that Calvinists had to follow, some of which included no drinking, no dancing, and punishments for missing church. Despite these strict rules, many people were devout Calvinists and pledged themselves to the religion. The one religion that caused for social outcasts was the Anabaptists. They believed that you should be baptized as an adult, not as a child. Other religions saw this as a way to assure your children would go to hell, as they would die before their baptism. Because of this, the Anabaptists were outcast and were not included in the treaties of Augsburg and Westphalia. These two treaties allowed for the monarchs of a region to choose which religion they would want to practice. They were allowed to choose from Calvinism, Lutheranism, and Catholicism. These 16th century religious reforms directly affected the social classes by creating new power structures that had not existed previously, which shifted power negatively. They allowed for more rights, such as expanded marriage and education equality, but came with oppressions such as the rules placed by Calvinism. The religious reforms also opened up areas for more conflict by allowing for new or controversial religions to occur, the example here being the Anabaptists. These reforms were much needed in terms of social progress, but they ended up hurting social class structures while they helped individualist thoughts.